Hey, what's going on, sports fans? My name is TJ Jones, and welcome to the Gumbo Sports Podcast, where we talk about some of the hottest topics in all of sports. Thank you so much for allowing the Gumbo Sports Podcast to be a part of your listening. And if you're watching me right now, your viewing pleasure. I really do appreciate it. Now, if you just so happen to stumble across this episode and you are subscribed to the State of the Saints podcast, I encourage you to subscribe to the Gumbo Sports Podcast because starting in February, we will be doing exclusive episodes on each program. These two platforms I normally would stream no matter what I'm talking about, but starting in February is going to be completely different. We're going to be talking about NFL stuff on Gumbo Pod and college football and all that other stuff on Gumbo Pod. And of course, we're going to be talking about the New Orleans Saints on the State of the Saints podcast, like always. And also the Unapologetic podcast, the exclusive podcast that's going to be coming out really, really soon. I have more details as we lead up to that. So February is going to be a huge month for yours truly and giving you all great content. But let's go ahead and talk a little bit about Wildcard Saturday. We now know two teams that are going to be in the divisional round. You got the Houston Texans having a huge victory against the Cleveland Browns, 45-14. And we also have the Kansas City Chiefs knocking off the Miami Dolphins in the coldest game in playoff history by a score of 26-7. So both of those teams are going to advance to the divisional round. If you're watching this on a Sunday, I recorded this, and this is before the two games that take place on today, the Dallas Cowboys and the Green Bay Packers, and the Rams and the Detroit Lions. So we're going to be talking a little bit about Wild Card Saturday and what we saw from these teams, and also just talking a little bit about some of the games that's going to take place on Sunday. But let's go ahead and get started, talk a little bit about the Houston Texans as I pull up the information here, getting a big victory at home. I mentioned on the last episode that the Houston Texans were playing with house money. Basically, they came into the playoffs. They have absolutely no pressure on them. I mean, they already have exceeded expectations. Nobody expected them to be in this position. People expected them to be much better than what they were last year. I mean, they only won 3 games. So if you would have won 4 games, it would have been better than what you did last year. But they completely exceeded expectations, and they're playing at a high level. And you have to look at one particular guy that really just changed this franchise by just being drafted, and that's quarterback C.J. Stroud. I mean, I'm looking at his stats right now. I mean, absolutely unbelievable, man. A rookie should not be looking like this. 16 of 21, 274 yards, 3 touchdowns, a QBR of 98.4, and a quarterback rating of 157.2. I can tell you this right now. I'm pretty sure if you were to, strap David Tepper up to a lie detector test, I'm talking about the owner of the Carolina Panthers, and you asked him, did you really, if you had a choice to draft C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young, and if you had the opportunity again, would you take Bryce Young again? I guarantee you, if he said yes, he would fail that lie detector test. I can only say thank the football gods that David Tepper and the Carolina Panthers did not draft C.J. Stroud. As you can see behind me, I grew up a Saints fan. I am a Saints fan, and it would have been horrible to face this guy twice a year for the next 10 to 12 years. They would have had this division on lock because this guy does not look like a rookie. I mean, he is a guy that never crumbles under pressure. You expect like rookies to, crumble or be a little bit nervous about some of the situations that they're in. But C.J. Stroud just always seems to be a cool guy. And the crazy thing about it is I had an opportunity to meet C.J. Stroud at the NFL Combine last year. I walked right past him, and, there was somebody that stopped him and wanted to take a picture with him. And, the way that he just kind of just stopped it, how he was just walking, like his demeanor is exactly the same as people see every single time he takes a snap. Like this guy, like, facial expression never really changes. It didn't seem like the guy put him on the spot, even though it seemed like, he was walking from one destination to another. But he is a guy that is just dialed in. and he believes that he belongs here. And he also has the chip on his shoulder because of what I just mentioned. He felt he needed to be the number 1 pick overall. And because he didn't, I feel like that is the reason why he's playing at such a high level. But all in all, man, I mean, you got to give credit to DeMeco Ryans. And there have been some really good coaching jobs in the NFL this season. You could talk about Dan Campbell and the job that he did, John Harbaugh, what he's doing out there in Baltimore. I mean, you could talk about all these different coaches, but DeMeco Ryans has to be the clear-cut coach of the year. I mean, once again, the Houston Texans only won 3 games last year. 3. And now these guys, not only are they in a playoff, they won the division, they got a home game, and now they're going to be playing in a divisional round. Rather, it's going to be against the Kansas City Chiefs or the Baltimore Ravens. Regardless, they are playing with house money right now. So if they were to lose next week to rather the Chiefs or the Ravens, nobody would care. I mean, this is a win, and everybody in a city of Houston would be extremely excited about 2024 because there's hope. And I often say, rather I'm talking on a Gumbo pod or State of the Saints, fan bases just want to feel like there's hope. And when they don't feel like there's hope, that's when people start to panic, and that's when people start having a defeated attitude. But this guy has such a positive attitude about the way that he carries himself, the way that his teammates look at him, the way the fan base looks at him. They believe in this guy, and he believes in himself. And the Houston Texans are going to be a force to be reckoned with as long as C.J. Stroud continues to play the way that he has been playing. He plays at a high level. He doesn't turn the ball over, and he doesn't really make a lot of mistakes either. Like, he doesn't fumble the football. He doesn't, throw interceptions, and then he throws a accurate football more times than not. So congratulations to the Houston Texans on advancing to the divisional round. I don't know what happened with the Cleveland Browns. They were supposed to have the best defense in all of football, but they have been a team that struggled when they go on the road. When they're at home, they can kind of control the environment. They run the football really well. Joe Flacco, he was playing really well, but Joe Flacco had some issues with turning the ball over too. So we had to take that into account. But, I mean, the fact that he was putting up 300 yards and 3 and 4 touchdowns, people weren't even paying that much attention to it. So the fact of the matter is the Cleveland Browns got to the postseason. They didn't have Deshaun Watson, who they paid a lot of money to. He had season-ending surgery. They had Thompson Robinson, the quarterback, the rookie out of UCLA. He got hurt, and they had to call Joe Flacco off the couch. And the fact that they're actually in that position, having a wild card game, playing against the Houston Texans is a testament to the direction of the Cleveland Browns and where they're going. I think when they get Deshaun Watson back, it'll start being a little bit more interesting. He was starting to get better. I think those 2 years where he was dealing with those situations everybody know about, I think it kind of took a toll on him. And this season, he finally kind of got back to the Deshaun Watson that we were accustomed to seeing. So if the Cleveland Browns can bring back Deshaun Watson, the status of Nick Chubb is still up in the air as far as what he's going to be. I mean, everybody know about that devastating injury in week 2 that he sustained. I mean, a very, very ugly knee injury. But you still have Kareem Hunt. I mean, he really played well in this game. He accounted for the 2 touchdowns the Cleveland Browns had. So if you can get him back and Nick Chubb and also, get Ford running, as well, I think that they'll be fine. But I just think that the Cleveland Browns took steps forward. The Houston Texans definitely took a step forward. And you got to be proud if you're a Houston Texans fan right now to be rooting for your team because the sky's the limit for these guys because C.J. Stroud indeed is something special. And then we move on to another game, a game that, man, I don't know how you playing something like this. Negative 20 degrees at the start of kickoff. I mean, we all see that picture going around about, with head coach Andy Reid. His mustache was frozen. Patrick Mahomes' helmet almost imploded. I mean, it was frigid conditions out there. And I guess that's why you get paid the big bucks. I guess you have to play in situations like this. But, the Kansas City Chiefs knocked off the Miami Dolphins by a score of 26-7. This is a game that I predicted correctly. The last game I did not. I don't feel bad about it because I'm happy for the Houston Texans. But This is a game that I predicted because of, the Kansas City Chiefs playoff experience, them playing at home, and also the weather conditions. You look at the Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins, even though they can run the ball extremely well, they mostly are a passing team because they got those burners and Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, on the outside. So they're getting Tua out there throwing the football all over the place. And, I just think that when you look at the Kansas City Chiefs, they've been there before. There's levels to this. You got Andy Reid as your head coach and Mike McDaniel, who is a really fine head coach in his own right. He's not on the level of Andy Reid just yet. And we've seen that throughout the season where the Miami Dolphins, it seemed like they were taking steps forward. But, when it came to big-time games, they always seem to crumble under pressure. But I think that that's going to change, as the future go on. When Mike McDaniel starts to get a little bit more seasoning under him, I think that's when you're going to see the Miami Dolphins play much, much better in tougher conditions and tougher matchup. But the Kansas City Chiefs did what they needed to do. They played playoff football, and it's about running the football. It's about playing really good defense. Isaiah Pacheco, he was out there running the ball extremely well. Patrick Mahomes, he was making plays with his legs and with his arm. And I look at, the Kansas City Chiefs, and right now I'm just pulling up the stats so I can make sure that I'm accurate with this. But when you look at the Kansas City Chiefs, this has been a team that has been being carried by Patrick Mahomes for I don't know how long. But it seems like they finally got a defense that can match his intensity. And, that's probably the best thing for a guy like Patrick Mahomes because he doesn't have to play perfect in order for him to win a football game. You usually be where if Patrick Mahomes didn't throw for 300-400 yards, then the Kansas City Chiefs more than likely weren't going to win because their defense wasn't very good. They couldn't really, stop anybody. It was kind of a coin toss if it came down to them stopping somebody or not. But it's good to have a good defense that can rush the passer, that can get the quarterback off his spot, and also neutralize some of the best players. Now, Tyreek Hill, he did have that big-time touchdown, and I said on X, that touchdown that Tyreek Hill caught, only a few guys I can just think of in history that would have scored on that. He basically had to stop for the football, and then he had to accelerate again and make two guys miss and run into the end zone. Like, that guy is a freak of nature. But I also think that the fact that he played for the Kansas City Chiefs played a huge role in this game because they knew how to neutralize him. They knew how to shut him down. They knew what he did best. That's the best thing about this whole situation is the Kansas City Chiefs knew how to neutralize Tyreek Hill. If they didn't, then it probably would have been a long day for him. You look at Patrick Mahomes, he was 23 of 41, 261 yards. He had one touchdown, QBR 88, 83.6 passer rating. That wasn't Patrick Mahomes like. But like I said, the best thing about this is that you have a defense that can neutralize guys. Isaiah Pacheco ran the ball 24 times for 89 yards. Patrick Mahomes had two big runs of 20 yards. You had Clyde Edwards-Helaire contributing with 7 carries for 21 yards. But if you look at Rashee Rice, finally, a wide receiver for Patrick Mahomes stepping up, not dropping the football. And this is what they drafted Rashee Rice for him to go out there to emerge as that number one receiver. Like, we look at guys like Marquez Valdes-Scantling, coming over from Green Bay, it has not panned out. You look at Kadarius Toney, who they traded for last year with the Giants. Sky Moore, all these different guys out there. But it seemed like Rashee Rice is the one that they got right. And he had a really good game. He had over 100 yards receiving a game, 130 yards to be exact. And that's what you want to see. You want to see these guys stepping up because, when you get a few games under your belt, people still look at you as a rookie. But when it comes to like playoff football, you're not a rookie anymore. And teams are looking at you to sink or swim. And right now, Rashee Rice, he looks like he's swimming really well. Then you look at the defense. Nick Bolton had 10 tackles in the game. You had a couple guys getting sacks. Chris Jones had a half a sack. You have a couple guys, contributing, getting the pass rush, getting Tua Tagovailoa off his spot, that is what you're going to need. And I'm once again, I bet it's a breath of fresh air for Patrick Mahomes to know that he can just go out there and he doesn't have to just put the team on his back every single game. He has a defense that can match his level of play. So congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs, who were struggling a little bit throughout the season. But I'm pretty sure this helps, as they advance to the divisional round. And now they're playing a waiting game. They're waiting to see who they're going to play. If the Baltimore Ravens, they are the number 1 seed. But if the Pittsburgh Steelers end up knocking off the Buffalo Bills, then I think that the Pittsburgh Steelers will go to Baltimore and the Houston Texans will take on Kansas City. But if the Buffalo Bills end up knocking off the Pittsburgh Steelers, then they will go to Kansas City and Houston will go to Baltimore. So I'm pretty sure that the Houston Texans are probably hoping and wishing that the Pittsburgh Steelers end up winning, because I don't think anybody wants to play the Baltimore Ravens right now. I mean, they're calling the playoffs the Baltimore Ravens Invitational because they clearly look like the best team in football, and they're going to be on full display next week in the divisional round. But now we focus on the games that are going to take place on Sunday. The first game is the Green Bay Packers versus the Dallas Cowboys. You got some guys that have been nicked up. Jair Alexander, I'm looking right now. I'm trying to look on my phone, try to see if there's more up-to-date type information in regards to the injury report. I know Jair Alexander, he was dealing with an injury as of right now. I'm not sure if he's going to play or not. There were some other guys nicked up. There was a few guys like Stephon Gilmore who had like a little bit of an injury the last game of the season. So right now it says that Jair Alexander and Christian Watson will play in this game. This is according to Sports Illustrated. So that's huge news right there. Christian Watson, who has been dealing with injuries throughout the entire season, and Jair Alexander once again had a little bit of an injury while he was practicing this week. So that's a plus for the Green Bay Packers. You're going to need Jair Alexander at his best going up against CeeDee Lamb, who is emerging as one of the best wide receivers in all of football. So that's a plus right there. And, you look at the Green Bay Packers. I mean, nobody really expected for them to be in the postseason the way they looked earlier in the season. It looked like Jordan Love was a mistake. It looked like people were going to be a little bit depressed about the future of the Green Bay Packers from the quarterback position. But Jordan Love has really stepped up. You look at his relationship with Jordan Reed. I think that was a plus. I think that, well, I'll say this. I think that his relationship with Jordan Reed emerged because of Christian Watson being out all those weeks. Christian Watson is the number 1 receiver for him. And the fact that Christian Watson has been injured, Jordan Love had to establish a relationship with Jordan Reed. And Jordan Reed has really been stepping up, man. I mean, he has been electrifying. Give credit to Matt LaFleur, finding ways to get him involved. Romeo Doubs out there. He's out there playing well. You lost Luke Musgraves, the tight end that was having a really good season, a rookie out of Oregon State. And Kraft steps up. I mean, Kraft looks really, really good. When Luke Musgraves comes back, between Musgraves and Kraft, they're going to have a really good tight end group. And they also have a really good young wide receiver group. And also you can add Aaron Jones, who dealt with injuries. Also, you're starting to see him start to get a little bit better, start to get a little bit faster, and he's starting to be back to the Aaron Jones that people are accustomed to. Meanwhile, you look at the Dallas Cowboys, it's business as usual. I mean, they won the division. They handled their business. They beat down the Washington Commanders the last time they played, and now they get a home game. And we know that the Dallas Cowboys at home are a completely different team than they were or they are on the road. You look at the Dallas Cowboys, I mean, they put up, if not 30 points per game at home. Dak Prescott, he likes the comfortable elements. I think it has a lot to do with the fact that you don't have to play in situations like what we saw in Kansas City. I think that is a plus. It has to be, knowing that, if it's cold, then all Jerry has to do is just close the roof and, you can basically do anything that you want to do without any limitations there. So you got Brandon Cooks out there playing well. You got Ferguson, the tight end, out there playing well. You got Tony Pollard starting to come on a little bit. And, of course, I mentioned CeeDee Lamb, who is emerging as one of the top receivers in all of football. So they have a lot of weapons. And also defensively, you got some guys that can rush the passer. You got DeMarcus Lawrence. You got Micah Parsons coming from East Side. Those guys are really good. DeMarcus Lawrence, not at the pass rusher he once was when he was kind of younger, but he's really good at stopping a run. And the Dallas Cowboys are going to have to count on him to neutralize Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones, throughout the course of history, has been a Dallas Cowboy killer. I mean, this dude always seems to play his best games against the Dallas Cowboys. So the Dallas Cowboys are going to have to be ready for this game. I mentioned that I feel like the Dallas Cowboys are going to, win this football game. They should win this football game because if they don't, heads should indeed roll because they've dominated probably almost every game they had at home. Now, I understand it's the playoffs and guys buckle down and they start to really pay attention to detail. But Mike McCarthy, I mean, you got to look at this as motivation too. This is his former team, a team that felt like they needed to go in a different direction from him. So you know that he's going to be inspired to play, well, for his players to play in this game and for him to call the game offensively, which he is responsible for calling the plays for the Dallas Cowboys. So should be an exciting game. Should be one of those games I feel like is going to be a really exciting game. I don't feel like it's going to be the game of the weekend, but it could be one of those games where it can come down to the wire. But it all depends on if Jordan Love can put on a C.J. Stroud-like performance. He has been playing really well lately. So, I mean, Jordan Love, if he plays like he's played over the last few games, should be interesting in Dallas. And finally, the Rams versus the Lions. You got to be happy for the Detroit Lions fans out there. Years of ineptitude, years of terrible decisions when it comes to the front office. It seems like they finally got it right. They got Dan Campbell as their head coach. He's inspiring. He's a motivator. He's a leader of men. And if it wasn't for DeMeco Ryans, he would be coach of the year. But the Lions get a home game for the first time, I don't know, since like the early 90s. I mean, you probably got to go back to Scott Mitchell last time them boys had a home game. But I know that the Detroit Lions fans are excited. I'm pretty sure it's probably like, Christmas Eve for them. It almost feels like, you're nervous, you can't sleep because your team has a playoff game and you want them to do so well. And then, you got the Rams who are coming into town. And I mentioned this before. You got Matthew Stafford who, really carried the Detroit Lions organization on his back. And, the relevancy they had was because of him. He ends up getting traded to the Rams. He ends up getting traded for the guy who plays quarterback for the Detroit Lions in Jared Goff. I mean, so when you look at that, you got to be like, man, like this is crazy because both guys are going to be inspired. You got Jared Goff, who the Rams, you have to say, gave up on and felt like they couldn't take that extra step with him as the quarterback. So that's a chip on his shoulder. And then you have Matthew Stafford, who has to come back into town, probably has a little bit of chip on his shoulder because, the Detroit Lions they have their best record they had since the early 90s. So, yeah, he wasn't responsible for that. Yeah, they went to the playoffs a couple times with him, but they didn't look like these Detroit Lions when he was the quarterback. So there's a lot of motivation here. There's a lot of offensive innovation here. There are two offensive play callers in Sean McVay and Ben Johnson who are really, really good at what they do. The defense, man, my goodness, I'm pretty sure they burning the midnight oil the last couple nights trying to figure out how to neutralize the respective defenses. If you're the Detroit Lions defensive coordinator, Aaron Glenn, you got to be, restless right now. And also Raheem Morris, you got to be feeling the same way. But going to be an exciting game. This the game I feel like is going to be the game of the weekend. I can't wait to look at this football game, and I'm looking forward to this one, man, because I want the Detroit Lions to win this football game so bad, man. I got the Rams winning, but I would not be upset. This is one of those Houston Texans situations for me. If the Detroit Lions can knock off the Rams, it would be great, man, because this fan base, they done went through so much. And as a Saints fan, I can relate to it. I mean, when your team has been down for I don't know how long and there's finally some prosperity, you just want your team to do so well. So I hope that I'm wrong when I say that the Rams win this football game. Not that I just hate the Rams. I know it's like the Saints. Like, you're a Saints fan. Why don't you hate the Rams? I don't hate the Rams. I respect good football. I respect good football. Do I hate what happened in 2018 when the Saints played the Rams in the NFC Championship? You're damn right I do. But I'm not going to hold a grudge because that was the referees. It's not like the Rams were, responsible for that. I mean, the referees were supposed to call that. But at the end of the day, I respect good football. And right now you have both of these teams that are playing at a high level. Should be an exciting game. Should come down to the wire. And I can't wait to watch this football game. But I would love to hear from you. What do you all think about Wildcard Saturday, the Houston Texans advancing, and the Kansas City Chiefs? And what do you think about these Sunday games? So who do you have coming out on top? Comment down below, like and share this video. Once again, my name is TJ Jones, and this is the Gumbo Pod Sports Podcast. Please subscribe to the channel. If you're watching this on the State of the Saints podcast, go to youtube.com, search Gumbo Pod Sports Podcast, because once again, starting in February, we're going to be doing exclusive sports news. It's not going to be related to the New Orleans Saints, so you won't be able to catch it, okay? So I want you to be able to catch, the Gumbo Pod Sports and us talking about the NFL, NBA, and whatever's going on, making sure that you all subscribe to the channel. Thank you all so much for your love and your support. And until next time, I'll see you down the road.